Alright guys, good morning. Glad you could tune in with us, as well as early in the morning, so if you're not an owl, thanks for tuning in, and if you're waking up, glad I can keep you updated as well. This right now, guys, and looks like we're looking at a pretty significant snowstorm proportions. Probably haven't seen in 20 years since the blizzard in 1996, and if you were around and remembered that storm, and you knew very well that storm was a doozy, and this storm will prove to be no different. So that is a case. That is indeed the case, as we could be looking at some pretty hefty amounts, especially across the western and central portions of the state. All right, guys, take a look at temperatures right now. Lower 20s area-wide, 22 in Richmond, 21 in Charlottesville, 22 in Stanton, 21 coming at you around Culpeper, 24 in Fredericksburg, 20 in Danville, but that's where they have the higher clouds streaming out ahead of the leading edge of the snow, which is just now creeping into southwestern Virginia. The leading edge of snow just to the southwest of Blacksburg, so it should be coming up on you guys in Blacksburg within the next hour or so. Slowly making its way. It's taking its time, but it's making its way up there. Heavier snows to the southwest down as you head down towards the Smoky Mountains. Some ice events starting to take shape across Charlotte, and down in this area they could see a pretty significant ice storm. So around from Charlotte and all the way up to Raleigh. So it could be pretty nasty down there. Let's see. Now we look at that whole nationwide scope, and man, what a wound up system we have. Look at that classic comma head, upper level low system. That's coastal low just waiting to phase into an area of low pressure offshore. Heavy snows on the back end around coming at you around Arkansas. Dangerous ice event taking place around the Tennessee-Kentucky border. Check out this fire hose of moisture just streaming in from the Gulf of Mexico. Man, what an amped up storm we have. And it has been so dynamic to the point where we had been dealing with severe weather all across this region along I-10. And even some tornado warnings were out earlier for the parts of southern Louisiana. So pretty dynamic system for sure, and this is going to be pretty, and for us, we'll definitely be on the snowy end for sure. Wow, what a system. Well, right. So now, and this is interesting because looking at this, it looks like it might be coming in a little earlier than anticipated. So I think the models kind of slowed down the precipitation onset a little bit too much. So my thinking on timing, places like Richmond, Norfolk, Charlottesville, thinking around 8 or 9 a.m. instead of the 10 or 11 a.m. I was saying on my page, which by the way, Virginia Weather Forecasting, give that a like if you haven't already. And maybe up towards late morning as you head up towards Northern Virginia. So probably push it earlier, about 1 or 2 hours earlier. Not a huge deal, but so it really won't have much effect on our totals. Just something to point out there, so you can plan for your morning commute. And if you are, which I suggest you wouldn't unless you have to. And all right. Now everybody's looking. Your snowfall map. Everybody's just waiting for that snowfall map. Well, here it is. First off, we're going to focus here on the red, which includes Winchester, much of the whole span of I-81 from the West Virginia state line down towards I-64, down towards places like Stanton, Waynesboro, Charlottesville, Culpeper, Warrenton, all the D.C. area. You guys look to get pummeled here. Very heavy snows, dangerous snows, and we could be dealing with blizzard conditions in this region. Please keep that in mind, and this is probably not going to be pretty ugly in this region. In the purple, 14 to 20 inches, not a very populated region, but I do have areas like Lexington, Powhatan, Cumberland, Goochland, Ashland, Ruther Glen, Bowling Green, King George, 14 to 20 inches. So Still a decent snow. I only think that slightly lower snowfall ratio, slightly lower snowfall ratios might keep your totals down just a little bit. It's still going to be a hefty snow no matter how you slice. I mean, in my opinion, just past 12 inches, that's just numbers. 10 to 16 inches in the dark blue for places like Roanoke, Blacksburg, Christiansburg, Morrisville, Danville, let's see, South Boston, Farmville, most of the city of Richmond. I do have the far west end in the 14 to 20. Most of the city of Richmond, Colonial Heights, maybe up towards Tappahannock. And this is where it gets tricky, although we could see some sleet mixing in. How far west the onshore flow, the warm air, just pushes in will depend on who sees mixing and who stays off snow. The models most recent model runs have backed off on the idea of snow sleet mix. Could that play out? Most certainly. We have to watch. But I do think, at least in this area for now, I'm just sticking with maybe some sleet mixing in with the flakes. So if you're anywhere along and south of US 360, you're probably going to deal with a little bit of a mix. Won't be too long. Maybe it will be brief, maybe for 3 hours. It will go back to snow. You guys will go back to snow. Pretty hefty. Although the models, too, have actually pushed the higher totals a little further east. So I'm still sticking with my final call with this map, but wouldn't surprise me if we saw higher totals around Richmond, especially around Richmond. So we'll see what happens. And the dark blue, and the moderate blue, 6 to 10 inches for places like South Hill, the Tri-Cities around Richmond, around Bombs Bridge, Quinn, Charles City, Prince George, Hopewell, up towards Lancaster, Urbana, 6 to 10. And this is where I think we'll see a change over to sleet, and we might even see rain mixing in, especially towards the eastern side of this area. So do keep that in mind, which could really cut down the snowfall totals. In the light blue, Emporia, Williamsburg, Wakefield, Windsor, Waverly, Gloucester, West Point, those areas, Matthews County. I'm expecting 3 to 6 for you guys. You guys will see a change over the rain, which of course will cut down your snow totals. You guys will start out with snow, but you guys will change over the rain sometime in the mid-late afternoon hours of your Friday. But you guys should change back over to snow at the very end around midday Saturday. 1 to 3 inches for Southeast Virginia just won't be much for you guys. I'm sorry, you're just going to be too far east. You're going to get that onshore flow from the Atlantic Ocean, which is warm for this time of year. It's just, you guys just aren't going to see much. You might get a little bit of snow to start, a little bit of snow to end, but it's just going to be mainly a rain event. So 1 to 3 inches for you guys down in Southeast Virginia around the Tidewater region. So it's going to be a pretty doozy of a storm. For elsewhere, though, it's going to be a pretty much of a doozy of a storm. So, all right. So let's see what else do I have to cover. Advisories, watches, warnings, the whole 9 yards. Okay, I got to cover that. Pretty important. Winter storm warnings, which are in the pink, that's for all Richmond, East Central Virginia, Western Virginia, Charlottesville, Harrisonburg, those areas. And if you know, as we move, let me kind of pan on up, scooch on up here. In the red, you got these are blizzard warnings, and I mean, I've never seen anything like that here in Virginia in my life. I can only remember one other time we were under the parts of the state were under blizzard warnings, and that was during the Christmas Day snowstorm of 2010, and that was on the Eastern Shore. But this is pretty significant. So if you're in Washington D.C., under no circumstances, especially Saturday evening into Friday evening into Saturday morning, should you be venturing out. It's just going to be very dangerous out there. Low's going to be kicking up. Winds are going to be kicking up. Snow will be dangerously heavy at times. Do not venture out there unless it is an absolute emergency. And even so, you have to please exercise extreme caution if you can. So it's going to be pretty significant up there. Coming at you around Fredericksburg, and Spotsylvania, on up towards DC. And here in Richmond, we're going to be dealing with some windy conditions, although I don't think it will meet the blizzard criteria. Blizzard criteria is basically 35-mile-per-hour winds, decent amount of snow falling, and quarter-mile visibility, and 3 hours or longer. So, don't meet that criteria here, but not ruling out some whiteout conditions here either. Could get very heavy at times too as well, so don't be surprised if that happens. Alright guys, let's take a look at the current, this is our in-house model, the RPM. Does a very good job with it, the short range within 24 hours, so highly recommend it for any of you model geeks who are following along with me. And